Most people stick to the day job, but they don't go for the dream job.
When you do that, you're giving other people control of your brain. A lot of times we think our banks get hacked or our identity gets hacked, but that book talks about how our brains get hacked. That has a bite. This is the most interesting podcast I've ever been on.
Welcome to Primal Shots as we journey from the ground to the cosmos. And as the shots get healthier, the questions get deeper. And today I am so excited to have Kary Oberbrunner, who is one of the leading specialists in the IP field, the intellectual property field. He's an author, speaker, and I can't wait to unpack this whole field of IP with him and to learn his perspective in this world and unpack his expertise. So let's dive in. Kary, welcome to Primal Shots.
I'm thrilled to be here. This is the most interesting podcast I've ever been on already.
Awesome. Kary, your background is very interesting. And the journey you've been through as an author, writing multiple books, and now being a strategist in this IP field. And I can't wait to kind of develop that story with you through this journey, And one of the things, Kary, is for people nowadays, right? One of the books you wrote, I believe it's Unhackable.
Unhackable. Yes. Yeah.
I love that title, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Right. And I love that title because it sort of speaks to me as being bulletproof in a way, right? Like that concept of being bulletproof in a world that's sometimes feels like it's out to get you.
Right.
Yeah.
The word hack is when someone or something gains unauthorized access.
Yes.
And a lot of times we think our banks get hacked or our identity gets hacked, but that book talks about how our brains get hacked.
And that's precisely what I want to dive into first. And what I believe is that to be unhackable, we need to start our day in a way that we cannot be hacked.
That's good.
Right? And so we're going to begin, Kary, with our bulletproof shot, or it's called our grounding shot, right? And so let's dive right in. Cheers.
Cheers. Carrots. That's what I felt. Carrots.
I think the color gives it away.
Yeah. I love it. I love carrot juice. I mean, that was a whole mix. I felt some other things in there too.
Did you catch the spice?
You'll have to tell me.
So turmeric.
Okay.
Carrots and celery paired with turmeric. Turmeric gives that anti-inflammatory quality, which you want to begin the day with prepping your body. So it's bulletproof or unhackable, as you say.
Yeah.
But it brings us to this question, Kary. So twofold.
Yeah.
One is, through your experience, what is it that you do to be unhackable? And what do you recommend to people as you coach them, through this very complex world out there, right? So one, give us your routine. How does Kary begin his day?
Yeah.
And then what is your advice to people listening to this out there?
Oh, that's great. So to me, it's all about mindset. When we get up in the morning, when I get up in the morning, it's easy to grab the phone and it's easy to scroll. It's easy to check email. And when you do that, you're giving other people control of your brain. You're getting hacked that early in the morning. There's been a lot of research that's been done that talks about how you are actually still in a flow state when you first get up in the morning. And so you're close to sleep, but you're close to the state of optimal human performance. And so what I try to do right away is I try to reflect and think, did anything happen in my dreams? Did anything happen in my mind that I want to capture? Because I know if I go focus on something else, it's gone. So I kind of reflect first, but then I actually engage in an audio program where it's really scripture and meditation, and it's audio. So I don't sit there and watch it, but as I go in my first few minutes of the day, I'm already feeding my brain with principles like gratitude, principles like God. So I'm not alone in this world. And it's really guarding the mind, because I feel like we are very passionate about what we feed our stomach, but a lot of people aren't passionate about what they feed their brain. There's a station called CNN. It's short for constant negative news. All right.
I love that.
All right. And most of the time, people are just reacting from emergency to emergency. And these things don't even touch our lives. I mean, I care about a shooting that's happening in Idaho, but in reality, it's not really my problem. I can't focus and solve that. And so when I let other people's emergencies and trauma intercept my brain, I'm already getting hacked.
I love that. And Kary, you mentioned that our brain is in a very suggestible state.
There you go.
Right? We talk about different brain waves. And
Yes.
we're still in that alpha stage when we wake up. And that can be beneficial or negative depending on how you use it.
Yes.
Right? If you tap into that with positive suggestions.
Yes.
As you said, you're feeding yourself, some of the scriptural stuff.
Yes.
And then it can be excellent.
Powerful.
Right?
Yeah.
But then, right, like you said, if you're turning
people
on
flip on the
if you're
news
turning
right
on
away.
the constant negative news, and again, we're using that same system
That's right.
to hurt us. And my fundamental premise is that we need to live by design, not default.
That's good. I like that.
Right? And if we don't design our morning,
It'll happen to us.
then
Right.
we fall into the default state.
Yeah.
Default is what the world wants to dictate.
Yeah. Even something subtle, when people say, have a great day, I in my brain, it flips a switch and I say, no, make it a great day.
Yes.
Because have a great day is passive. But if I make it a great day, it's that agency. I'm very big into agency. And so, yeah, usually I'm always doing cardio. I like cycling a lot. But when I really push my body with cardio, the creative brain just explodes. I get a lot of my ideas when I'm on a bike.
Oh, I love that. I love that. What is your morning routine apart from ingesting positive input, gratitude?
Yeah,
gratitude in terms of physical activity.
Physical, yeah. So a few days a week, I do core work with my friends. They're all older than me by quite a bit. And so seeing them exercise at their age, it really inspires me. But then I'm also rotating that with cycling. And so I have a trainer in my house when the weather's not good, so I can't use that as an excuse. But when the weather is good, then I go outside. And religiously now, for about the last 5 years, I do minimum 100 miles a week and then 5,000 feet of elevation.
Wow.
And so that's just standard. This year, it's I won't say the day exactly. Well, I'll just say the day. It's August, so I'm already at 5,000 miles this year, and that's cycling,
stationary cycling,
both outside,
both.
and
Okay.
trainer. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
But I'll tell you what. I know we'll get into more questions here, but I do that also to maintain a positive outlook. I feel like some people are just predisposed to depression. And I think as a kid, we'll get into that stuff, but cycling and all those endorphins really help me fight depression as well.
So, Kary, that segues us into the next topic here.
I can't wait, man.
Next shot, right? So this is our focus shot. And, you talked about kind of what we set our intentions for, what our focus is. And so let's drink to that, our focus shot, and then we'll dive right in.
As my friend Ella says, that tastes like grass. I felt the very earthy. I'm gonna say wheatgrass.
Close. It is a green,
Okay.
and you're tasting the grass element or the earthy aspect from matcha.
Ah, yeah, I love matcha.
So it's matcha. What's the spice?
Oh man.
Anything you're
Yeah,
tasting?
matcha and a little bit of lime. No.
A little bit of lime.
Yeah.
So the spice is ginger.
Ginger. I like
That's
ginger.
what's giving
Okay.
that
Yeah.
kick at the end.
I like that.
And you know, ginger, matcha, all of that together. These are all sort of adaptogens that
Tell me more. What does that mean?
So there's two components. That one is there are certain supplements that help you focus.
Okay.
Well, caffeine, people use caffeine to focus, and there's nothing wrong with caffeine in the right amount. Green tea has natural caffeine, so people use coffee for caffeine and whatnot. Well, what an adaptogen does is allows you to handle stress.
Oh yeah.
And so normally our body reacts to stress by spiking cortisol.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
What an adaptogen does, it blunts that response to some degree.
I love
In
it.
a sense that you face stress, but you can remain poised
Yes.
in the moment of
I love that.
right? So that's what an adaptogen is supposed to do. Now, you can build that resiliency naturally within you. That's the goal, right? But you can use some of these supplements to actually help you in that process,
Yeah.
right? So speaking of focus, Kary.
Yep.
And you've spoken about this in your books and other talks. And, as a child, you grew up with certain, challenges.
Sure.
You
Stuttering, self-injury, all that. Yeah.
You had a stutter.
Yep.
And through all that, right, you came up and, look at you now with running companies,
Yeah.
mentoring people, and, which is a incredible transformation.
Yeah.
I think if we looked at you as a child and you said, like, what's your trajectory? You would
Yeah.
never, I
Yeah.
don't think we would plot it and
Yeah.
bring it to who you are now.
It's true.
So as you're going through this, right, what was your focus, right? Because at that time, I'm sure there were all these different things pulling at you.
Oh yeah.
Now, what did you use as your North Star to kind of come out of that or climb out of that?
Yeah. So my stuttering really came from a perfectionism. So back in the day, it wasn't like today where we have great child psychologists. And back then they actually said you have a learning disability. So I remember even getting notes from the school that Kary has a learning disability. And my parents were well-meaning, but they'd say, stop and think about what you're going to say, which was actually really bad because I was already thinking of what I was going to say and worrying that I wouldn't get it perfect. And back in the day, you had to stand up in the front of the class and read, and I mean, that's a lot of pressure. And so now you're reading and you're stuttering and all the kids are laughing at you and this type of thing. So, I mean, it wasn't just the stutter, but it turned into a self-hatred. Like, I hate myself for struggling. And it turned into self-injury. So at first it turned into biting, and then as I got older as a teenager, and nobody knew about this, then it turned into actually cutting. And I think we're all destined for greatness. I really believe that. I think a lot of us are destined for greatness, but the problem is that we have two voices, and one voice is destructive, and one voice is life and death, life and death. And there were times where I thought, why not just end my life? Why not end it? Because I couldn't see how God could use my life. And you just feel pain in the moment. And self-injury it's a form of control, because we all have pain in life, but with self-injury, you're the one controlling the pain. How much, how often, how deep. And so it's actually a form of control. And what I had to learn is to focus what I could control in other positive areas. And so exercise is a great one. Writing, instead of destructive, let's journal our pain. Let's write it out. And so I found healthy ways of getting the pain out versus negative ways.
Wow. That's an incredible story. And as you are journeying through this, was there, I'm sure there are listeners out there who maybe they're struggling with this aspect, or they may have a family member or a child who's going through this, right? What is your advice to someone like that, and what can they anchor to as a focus?
Totally.
Right? Like, what is it that they could do to come out of something like that?
Yeah. So for me, it was a certain scripture. There's called the Psalms. It's David's journal. It's King David. We all have heard of King David, but he would write these poems, these psalms, and some of the psalms were really intense. I mean, in some of the psalms, he's like, "May you make my enemies widows. May you blot them out of the book of life." I mean, he's like saying some pretty intense stuff. And I actually read that, and I was like, I like this guy. I like this guy, because I thought, how could he be a man after God's own heart and write this real stuff? And I grew up in a church home. My dad was a pastor. I couldn't understand. I thought you had to come to God all cleaned up, all perfect. And I think there's a lot of people out there that believe that lie. Like, I got to have my life perfect. I think what spirituality is its authenticity. And so what I started to do was I started to say, my journal is not going to judge me. So I would encourage the listeners to get their young kid or older kid, or maybe themselves, art, canvas, painting, journal, something where they can express how they feel in some form of medium. I've even heard some people with clay, because they can like beat the clay. But when we are channeling that angst that we have in life into a creative form, it goes from inside us to outside us. And that is a form of, I would just call it catharsis, like you're getting the pain out. And so I feel like that is a positive way. We know that when we get into flow, we've talked about that, but optimal state of human performance, the whole way you get into flow is the preloading phase is struggle. You can't get into flow until you have that stressor where you are now in what's called the flow channel. It's you want stretch but not snap. Too much stress in your life and you snap. Too little and you get bored. And so as a high performer, Dr. Kavin, I'm always trying to stretch. And so I need focus a lot of times to get to that point.
I love that. I think that's great advice. Part of coming out of something is that you can't fight that negativity, but I think that diverting all that energy towards something then becomes a channel.
Oh, that's good.
Right, to kind of escape.
That's good.
Right.
Yeah.
And I love that, and I think that's great advice. And but thank you for sharing that. I know a lot of people sort of shy away from those aspects, and
I'm an open book, man.
and that's great that you're able to share that, and that adds a lot of value to people. Because I believe that sometimes we hide our struggle, we hide our challenges, but then they can be of value to people because they could learn from them.
That's right.
So Kary, we ground ourselves, we focus, then it brings us to the idea of what keeps us going, right?
That's good.
A lot of times, we focus on something and we say, God, here's my direction. This is where I want to go.
Yep.
Right? Which is great.
Yep.
But sometimes you're on the right road, but staying on the road or staying on the journey is a different element, right? Picking the right road is one thing. We talked about that, right? And you pick the right road.
Right.
But now having the tenacity
To stay on
and
it.
the endurance to stay on the right
That's
road
good.
is even more important. So that brings us to our endurance shot.
Oh, I like that. Left hand, baby.
This is the most colorful shot here. And so, cheers.
Cheers. That has a bite. That has a bite. I'm feeling that beets.
Check.
I'm still feeling the ginger.
So you're feeling the spice. You're feeling the spice.
Pepper.
Yeah. It's cayenne pepper, giving the spice. Very good.
Yeah.
Anything else? Anything else with the beet?
The beet. Maybe a little carrot too.
So it's paired with pomegranate to give the little bit of that sweetness to the beet, because beets tend to be pretty tasteless.
Yeah.
And you're into cycling, so you know that beet juice
people drink it.
Pomegranate, both that they have the
antioxidants
the nitric oxide, right?
Okay.
They beets have a lot of nitric oxide, which is from a cardiovascular point of view, opens up the blood vessels, gonna
VO2 max,
increase that, right? And runners, cyclists using that. So it symbolizes the endurance we need in life to keep going.
Yeah.
And I love the title of another one of your book. And you said from
day job to dream job.
Yeah. And I read that title and I said, I'm going to use that for the podcast for sure. But I love that concept, right? That most people stick to the day job.
That's right.
But they don't go for the dream job.
That's right.
Right? Because I believe that journey from going from a day job to a dream job requires that endurance, that tenacity.
Yeah.
Because it's a harder road.
It is.
People want to get to the dream job, right? But they stay at the day job.
Yep.
So maybe walk us through that journey twofold. One, why did you not just take a day job?
Yeah.
Because what you do is very non-traditional, for sure.
Right.
Right. I know you haven't stuck to a day job, or you wouldn't be here.
That's right.
And what does that journey look like to somebody who has a day job right now, but is always thinking that, man, I want to get to that dream job?
Yeah. So my day job was a pastor. So that's pretty interesting here that, Dad was a pastor. I wanted to help people. So I went into the church, and parts of it I liked, but I knew it wasn't my ultimate resting place. And so now you're left with chronic pain. I was talking to my friend before the podcast on this. There's two types of pain in life. One is chronic pain, one is acute pain. And most people are cool with chronic pain. It stinks, but it's always there, but it's not so bad. They still get a paycheck. They still have predictability. And so they're like, yeah, I have a dream job, but I'll just live in that chronic pain. And really it comes from two Latin words that both mean work, but two different types of work. One word in Latin for work is labor, where we get labor, and that means toil. And if you're in your day job, you're toiling. But your dream job is your opus, and opus is the word masterpiece. And there's a great quote by L.P. Jacks, and this woke me up when my friend told me this quote. Chet Scott, he said, A master in the art of living draws no sharp distinction between work and play, labor and leisure, mind and body, education and recreation. They simply pursue their vision of excellence and leave others to determine whether they're working or playing. To themselves, they always appear to be doing both.
Oh, I love that.
And I thought, when he told me that quote, I'm like, oh, that's not me. I knew it wasn't me, because people could look at my life and say, oh, he's working there and now he's playing. And when you have a disintegrated life, you don't feel like a soul on fire. And I knew my passion was to help people be souls on fire. That's why my publishing company's called Igniting Souls. So now I'm left with the choice: 3 kids, 6, 4, and 2, pastor, paycheck, title, healthcare, Christian school paid for with my kids. I mean, everything's there. And now I feel like I'm supposed to jump. Now, what do you do? So my friend said to me, this actually culminated at a very key point. Short story, but I'll tell it quick here. My buddy calls me, Chet Scott. He was my coach. And he called me up and he said, hey, man, how's the church going? I said, fine. And he said, I see you just got back from a trip speaking and you're writing books, but you're still at the church. And he said, why? And he said, is your wife happy with what you're doing? I said, sure. Are you happy? Sure. And then he said, is God happy? I'm like, I don't know. And then he said, I think you're full of blank. Started cussing me out. And he said, I think you're telling everyone to live a big game and you're scared to go off on your own and you're living off the church's dime because you're not a soul on fire. And then he said this quote, and you have to be a Lord of the Rings fan to know, but he said, you can't take the ring and stay in the Shire.
Yes.
Which means I can't live this life of big adventure and live this life of comfort. And so then he said, when you grow a pair, call me back. Boom, and hung up the phone.
That's a good friend.
Is that crazy?
That's a good friend.
It hurt, man. It hurt, and I felt nauseous because I knew right there I was going to quit my job. And literally 48 hours later, I go in to my director and I say, I need to leave.
Wow.
And he said, what are you doing? What are you going to do? And I said, I'm not fully sure. But that began the path to then go in the deeper journey. And I was already coaching, I was already speaking, but I was doing it as a side gig because the person that I didn't believe in was myself. I didn't think I had what it takes. And before people buy from you, you have to believe in you because people buy belief. And so that was the first step. And so for the person listening to this podcast who says, I got a dream job, I would say get clear first. Clarity attracts, confusion repels. But don't be afraid to do a side hustle. A lot of people think it's not sexy to just have your side gig. But I think that there's actually a study done in Wisconsin that says the people who do a side hustle while they have their day job are more successful. And part of it's because they have to learn resilience, focus, grit, all that, priorities.
And Kary, I think sometimes is that you have to treat that first job or whatever you start off with. But if you have that mindset that this is a stepping stone, not a station.
Oh, that's good.
Right? Because if it's my station in life, then I'm just going to live here.
And there's people who do that. You're like, hey, why do you work there? I don't know. I started 25 years ago and here I am today.
And you know, you get comfortable. Everything is easy. And, you know, it's just law of efficiency, right? You just keep doing it every day. And every
but your
day,
soul's dying.
Right. Your soul's dying, but you're becoming more efficient at the same time. And so now you don't have to think. You show up. You sit in the same way. You do.
Everybody knows you.
Everybody knows you. And it becomes a station. not a stepping stone.
That's good.
And I think
That's IP right there.
and I think if you begin
Yeah.
with the mindset that this is just a stepping stone
Yeah.
and you don't let it become a station,
That's good.
then you know that you have to step off this,
Mm,
right? You
I
have
like
to,
that.
like you said, jump off,
Yep.
right? If I know I have to jump off,
Yeah.
then I'm mentally already preparing
That's good.
to get out of it,
That's good.
right? And that I don't get comfortable,
Nice.
you know. I would say for me, it was interesting because I was in a group, I was
Yeah.
the youngest radiologist
Well,
here, and they like me. They like my people skills. They're like, you're good with people. And
Yeah.
if not, we want you to be the front face of the admin. We want you to
Wow.
be the VP of the group. And, everybody was older than me. And I said, you want me to be the VP? And I was honored. I said, wow, this is great, And then I went home and I told my wife, I said, like, they want to be me to be the VP of the group. And she goes, is that what you really want? Is that what you want? I said, well, I'd be the VP of the group. That'd be my, the title and everything like that. And then, so she said, but think about it. Is that what you want?
It's a good question.
And I said, and then I thought about it and I said, if I become VP, it will become a station because I will stay there. Because again,
it's a life sentence.
It's a life sentence. I'll get, I'll climb up the ladder.
Right. Seniority.
Yeah. And my passion was always in teaching. And it began with teaching residents, teaching medical students. And now I'm teaching wellness and longevity and speaking on stages. And all of this work all came after that decision. And so they made me VP of the group. 3 months later, I said, I'm not going to let this be my station. And, there was the increased paycheck, there was that increased title. And I actually quit my VP job 3 months after I became VP of this group as one of the youngest partners.
Wow.
I said, I'm not going to stay here.
Yeah.
And because if I stay here, I will get comfortable.
That's right.
Right.
Good for you, though.
And I went off and I joined another group as a faculty member where I could teach.
Sure.
Again, starting at the bottom, non-partner and everything like that. And now I'm core faculty in that group and a partner in that group. But it allowed me to teach, and it allowed me to write books, and it allowed me to do everything that I'm doing here today. Because if I stayed there as a VP, it would have become my station. I would not have done any else.
Good for you.
So, but as you said, Kary, it is scary.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm sure when you left that job, it wasn't that there was this clear road in front of you. Right. Nobody was holding up a sign and saying, Kary,
no, you're going to have this. Yeah. Start a publishing company. Yeah. No. It wasn't like that at all. But here's what I think, Dr. Kavin. You might agree or disagree. I've had to change and do this multiple times. In other words, there's a phrase that says every level brings a new devil. Okay. Okay. So, in other words, you still have layers of growth. I still have layers of growth where even as successful as we are, to go to the next level, we almost need to double down. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's the myth. A lot of times people look at successful people and say, oh, they had to make one big sacrifice. And I've realized there's always another level.
Right. And I think each level is still a stepping stone.
Yes.
Right. And to me, sometimes you feel like you've arrived, but it's all still meant to be just a stepping stone.
Yep.
And sometimes you have to let go of that platform.
That's right.
And say, this is this.
I agree.
Let's pass and let's go beyond this. But that's the journey. I think once you start off,
if you're on that path, you'll keep going, or you'll just plateau.
Yes. And so, Kary, that brings us to our fourth shot.
Ooh.
You may have to stir this one a little bit.
It's gonna get more intense. I feel it here.
So we talked about endurance. We talked about the journey. And part of journeying is that I think one part of maturing is creating ourselves, as you say,
Yeah.
like having that intention. And, you talked about coming out of some of the struggles. And so the part of our journey is spent on creating ourselves.
Yep.
But we find when I matured, I realized that creating myself was just half the equation, right? Because the other half is creating a team,
Yes.
right? Which is a whole different concept, because
Yes.
it's not about how great I am. It's about how great we are,
That's good.
right? And that requires a whole different level of maturity, because I
Yes.
realize, and I'm sure you do from doing everything you're doing, that it's not all about
No.
right? And so that brings us to our tribal shot.
All right.
So cheers.
Cheers. Wow. A little bit of cacao?
Yes, for sure.
Oh, sweet.
For
Okay.
sure.
Glad I got that. Beyond that, like a almond milk, like a nut milk, maybe.
Very nice. So it doesn't have a nut milk, but it has maca root in it, which gives it that nutty flavor.
Yeah.
Which is a very kind of gives it that nutty base. So
Mm.
maca root is great for men because it raises your testosterone level.
All right.
So you'll be able to cycle a little faster when you go.
That's good.
And the spice element there is cinnamon, and that gives it that little
Yeah, I can
spice,
see that now.
little spice at the
Yeah.
end. And cacao traditionally, is a we drink it when we're connecting with people. We have hot chocolate. When we're
Yes.
connecting. We're giving chocolates during Valentine's.
Sure.
It's a element that connects, right? And so it brings us to the topic, Kary, here about connection.
Yeah.
Right. And I believe that anything great, it comes out of co-creation rather than just our own
I like that.
identity.
Nobody's a self-made man, self-made woman. Yeah.
Right. And I think that we have to, instead of, we always start off, and I think when I was in college and when I was going through medical school, and I was so focused on being independently successful, right? It was all about being the best in the class.
Yeah.
And I don't think anything is wrong with that. I mean, there's a phase of your life where it's important, but I quickly had to mature from independence to interdependence.
That's good. I like that.
And when I left that VP job, right, I could be a very successful independent VP, but to become an entrepreneur in the wellness space, it required
Team.
interdependence.
Yep.
And so, Kary, let's talk about that. As you go through this process, and now you're building this company, Instant IP, and helping authors, helping entrepreneurs sort of protect their IP. And I'm sure that's not you. That is
it's a team
right?
effort.
Because you have a team of lawyers that are supporting you.
We have the app builders, the lawyers, the IT. We got director of customer success. Yes, all those roles.
So maybe walk us through that. As one is that how did you make that transition of, let's say, venturing out on your own? Said, okay, I'm going to do my own thing. To building actually that tribe, and that ecosystem. And again, for entrepreneurs that are out there, and on this journey, any word of advice about how to put together a team?
Absolutely. So I'm going to lean a lot on one of my mentors, John Maxwell. I'm going to share some principles, but he calls it the law of attraction. Who you are is who you get. So if you say, I want a great team who are optimists, you can't be a pessimist.
Mm.
No optimists are going to say, yeah, we'll work for a pessimist. So in other words, it's not that you get everyone who's just like you, but you can't hire for core values that you don't have yourself.
I love that.
Another good principle about that is you can't expect perfection. It's really frustrating to work for a perfectionist because they're never happy, and they're never happy with themselves. And I'm a recovering perfectionist, so I get it. I get that you want to be perfect, or I did. But the truth is that if you have such a high standard of perfectionism, you're not going to delegate because you're going to think that you're the only one who can do it. So John Maxwell says, if somebody can do something 80% as good as you, give it to them, because, that is going to free you up to do what you're great at, and they'll get better at it. So the other thing, though, is once you get betrayed by somebody, it's very easy to disconnect. You mentioned cacao, connection, chocolates. I like that. But there was a season in my companies where betrayal happened. Two trusted individuals, my COO and my CFO. And at first they said, we got this, Kary. You're doing what you're great at. You don't need to come to these meetings. And I'm like, cool. They're freeing me up. And what I didn't realize is that they were forming a company together. Left my company, started their own, and took some of my IP and some of my clients from me. And the quick default is build the walls. This isn't going to happen again. And we do that as humans because we don't want anyone to hurt us again.
No.
But Maxwell says, if no one can hurt you, no one can help you either. And so I got into that point in my career where trusted people, got betrayed, and then you start believing the lie, well, I'll just do it all myself. And you'll plateau your growth. So thankfully, I'm a big God guy, but God brought some other people into my life and regained the trust. And now I literally have what one of my coaches, Dan Sullivan, says is a self-managing company. It doesn't mean that the company runs itself, but I've empowered the people. So the publishing part of that company, I still bring in my unique ability for the book architecture sessions, but then everything else that the team is doing. And now I'm running Instant IP. So it does take a team effort. And if you think but we have to grow into that. You know what my company used to be called? Kary Oberbrunner. I mean, it really did. It was like Emily@KaryOberbrunner.com. Like, it wasn't egotistical, but I just thought that's as far as I could see myself. And I think when you move from success to significance, it's a big shift.
Yes.
It's kind of easier to be successful, but if you want your success to become significant, it has to be outward focused, other centric. And I know even this podcast that you're doing, I mean, you're reaching people. You're going into significance.
Oh, thank you, Kary. And that's always been the focus. And one of the things that you mentioned, which hits home for me, is that you attract who you are.
Yes.
And I love that. And
right?
I think the premise behind that also is sometimes before you find your tribe, you have to find yourself first.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Because if you haven't found yourself, then there is no clarity within you in terms of who you are, what your identity is. If I don't know who I am, then who am I even looking for?
That's right.
Because I haven't even found myself.
That's good.
And what is interesting, Kary, is that, we live in an age where loneliness is an epidemic.
That's true.
Right? You look at the
Absolutely.
numbers.
Can be around people and be lonely at the same time. Yeah.
And it's crazy. And not just US, but if you look worldwide, if you look at Japan
Yes.
and all these other areas where, and you look at the rate of loneliness, the rate of suicide,
Yes.
and people always ask, like, why is this happening? We're so connected.
Yep.
You
Got our phones,
in-
our devices.
we're digitally connected to
Yep.
everybody,
Mm-hmm.
but we're disconnected with ourselves.
Oh, that's good. You're dropping some good IP here. That's good.
And that's the
Yeah.
issue, is that in the modern world, is that you're connected with everybody except yourself.
Wow.
And what that does is that because of that, you never know who you are.
That's right. Yeah.
And so what you wind up doing is living very superficially, because you're just living what the world tells you should be, rather than really finding who you are. And I mean, that's the theme here we're exploring, is that, like, we talked about taking that leap, right? But how do you take that leap? Because you have to know that there is something inside you that wants to express itself. Right? But if you never ask that question, you don't even know.
That's right.
Right? And then, so you could spend your whole life in this digital world and never know what you truly want.
That's true.
And so to me, part of this loneliness epidemic is that it gives us this facade that we are connected with people. And one of the realizations that I had was that I realized that those connections, the number of followers, the number of likes, that didn't mean anything to some degree. And I think it's great to have that.
Right.
It's great to have those metrics and those numbers. We to some degree, we're all, as authors, influencers, we're chasing that in some way. But we can't let that define us.
No.
Right? I can't let that define who I am.
That's right.
And I cannot rely on that metric to say that I am truly connected.
That's right.
And so when I realized that I had to find myself, then the true connections came out.
That's
right?
good.
Because then I really formed that ecosystem that took me forward. I'm sure you've seen that in your life.
Yeah,
right?
and you draw people to you when you know who you are.
Right.
Right? If somebody knows who they are, man, you want to be around them because they're safe in their skin. They're comfortable.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And and I tell these to I have 2 boys, and we talk about this, and they're talking about how do you attract girls, and these topics come about, and one of the things we talk about is I said that is that just get to know yourself, because when you're very comfortable with who you are, it's a very, very attractive quality.
That's
because
good.
then you're not dependent on anything external.
That's good. I like
you
that.
know?
Yeah.
And then people see that.
They don't need validation.
They don't need validation.
Yeah.
And when you don't need validation, you're
free.
You're free.
Yeah.
You're very attractive.
That's good.
So, Kary, that brings us to our last shot here.
Oh, stir it up.
We're going to stir this one up.
Mm-hmm.
And this, as you can see the color, we journeyed from the ground to the cosmos, and symbolic of the cosmos is this blue shot. The blue comes from a natural flower that we use, and that flower, it's a butterfly pea flower, which has a blue color. So there's nothing artificial in this shot. And but let's experience it. Cheers.
Cheers. Wow. That's good. That's good. That's got a bite to it. Gee, what would be in that? Does taste a little bit more sour.
Mm-hmm.
It almost tastes, it sounds weird, but a little bit like wood.
Wood.
I don't know. I don't know, man. What do you got?
What would you if I
Yeah.
in terms of taste, what would you say? Sour, bitter, where
I'd
would you
say bitter and sour.
bitter and sour.
Yeah.
That's very good. That's
Yeah.
very good. So the dominant note there is bitterness, and it's by design, by the way.
Yeah.
The star ingredient there is bitter melon.
Bitter melon. Okay.
It's a ingredient that not too many people know about.
No.
In Eastern cultures, it has tremendous health benefits in terms of our metabolic health, controlling glucose levels. In fact, a lot of people in traditional medicine used to drink the concentrate of bitter melon in the morning because it helps with that metabolic health and glucose
Wow.
health. The only challenge is because it's so bitter, it's tough. It's very tough to ingest,
Yeah.
right? So you have to pair it and make a concoction like this one where it's palatable.
I could do it. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure you could do it.
Yeah. So what was the other part?
So it's paired with green apple.
Okay.
To kind of break that bitterness.
Nice.
But the bitter aspect of it brings us to the bitter truth in life.
Ooh.
The bitter truth is that, as you write in your books, Kary, is that we have a start date and we all have an end date.
Yeah.
And part of healthy aging, from my perspective, being in the longevity world, is coming to terms with our mortality.
Sure.
And what I believe is that when you realize that you have a finite life,
Oh, yeah.
you live each day making infinite decisions.
That's good.
Because you start focusing on what is going to live beyond me.
Legacy. Yeah.
And I know you've written on legacy.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to touch upon that specifically. But the flip side is also true, right? Most of us don't want to face the fact that we are mortal, right? Because we always have this mentality that there's always tomorrow.
Right.
Someday I will. Next time. Right? If you look at all the phrases we use, and all the phrases always talk about there's some day in the future where everything will be perfect and I'll make it happen, right? But for the most part, that someday never comes, right? And
they put off decisions.
Right. They put off decisions. They put off doing what they need to do. But the deeper level is they put off decisions, but also today they do not live with intention. They do not live with legacy, because if I have endless tomorrows, then what does it matter? I'll sit here on my phone and doom scroll. I can watch that Netflix binge series, and what does it matter? Because I have endless tomorrows, right? So, Kary, my question to you is twofold. One is, with all the work you're doing in the IP space, your background as kind of like being a pastor and whatnot, taking all of that into account, what is, when people think of you many, many years from now, what is the legacy you want to live behind?
That's cool.
Right?
Yeah.
And the second piece to that is, when you talk to clients and when you try to teach legacy, right? What is it? How do you present that to people?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what should they focus on in terms of making an impact, right?
Yeah.
Because again, I think part of IP, like what you're talking about, is protecting, right?
Yeah.
It's protecting that legacy.
That's right.
And protecting that.
Oh, that's good.
That aspect of what you've created, right?
That's
because
good.
it's not just for you, it's for the generations to come. So let's maybe unpack that.
So I'll start by saying that one of my friends, Chet Scott, asked me a question. He said, "What's the most damaging thing in the life of a child?" And And I said, I don't know, alcoholism, abuse, abandonment. And he said, no, according to Carl Jung, it's the unlived life of the parent.
Mm.
And when I heard that, I was a parent of young kids. And I said, wow, tell me more about that. And most parents live a life that they come home from work, they kick the dog proverbially, they say, give me the remote, let me veg out. Veg is short for vegetable. Vegetables' brain waves are dead. Give me a 6-pack so that I can just sit here and decompress and then go back to a job that I hate. And that type of behavior for 18 years is more damaging to a kid than even abuse. It's pretty powerful. So that means that the most powerful thing that a parent can do is to live life to the full. For a kid to look at their parent and say, wow, mom and dad are in it, So when my kids see me saying, you know what, I'm going to go to France and cycle up some of the biggest mountains in the world. Why? I don't know, because it's hard. Or they say, hey, you're going to go teach as a professor 3 days a week during the school year when you could be making more money. Why are you sowing into the next generation? Because my professors believed in me when I was a kid. It changed my life. So I feel like legacy is what is going to be said about us. I can't control that, but I would like people to say that guy was a soul on fire. Because there's a quote by Ferdinand Foch that says the most powerful weapon on earth is the human soul on fire. And I do believe that we remember souls on fire. And it doesn't mean you need to make a huge impact. Maybe you make an impact in one person's life, but that's still significant. In my faith, it says that a really good servant is going to get to heaven, and not because of their own works, but because they place their faith in Jesus Christ. If we do work here on earth where we love God and love people, God's going to say, well done, good and faithful servant. That's pretty cool. So people's legacy about what they say about me, important, but I think what I really care about is, what does God say about me? And just to bring it back all the way to the orange shot, if I would have taken my own life, because maybe some listeners are struggling, and if I would have gone through with a suicidal, decision, I think God would have said, look at all the stuff I had for you, and you're here early, and you missed out. And so I feel like when we get depressed, I really like what you mentioned. I'm going to take that away about that connection with people. Ask a friend how they're doing. Because we do all wear masks at times, and maybe it looks good on the outside, but maybe asking a friend would change their legacy as well.
I love that. I love that concept of a soul on fire.
Yes.
And I think everybody's fire is different, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Your
could be-
fire is amazing.
Everybody's, thank you.
Yeah.
So everybody's fire is different, but I think you have to know that you are a soul on fire more than anybody else knowing it.
And I feel like it's contagious. If I see somebody on America's Got Talent or whatever, you can tell if they're a soul on fire.
Right away.
You can tell.
3 seconds.
Yeah, and if an artist is, and we just have that ability as humans to whatever field. If somebody's on fire in architecture, I can feel it. Absolutely.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And it's funny you mentioned your kids.
Yes.
And seeing that. And I love that comment about parents.
Yes.
And that I think the biggest, as parent, both of us being parents, the greatest lesson we can live, the greatest legacy, put it that way, that we can leave behind is ourselves being that soul on fire.
Wow.
right? Because if they can see that,
Mm.
you know, and not that
It's not perfect.
it's not perfect.
Yeah.
It's not that you become a multi-billionaire
Yeah.
through that process, but that you are fighting the fight,
Yeah.
right? And that you didn't settle
That's right.
for the day job,
That's right.
but you were fighting for the dream job.
That's
or
right.
You were fighting,
Yeah.
willing to go through that process.
That's right.
And do that. And I think that's something that is not easy. I think it's not
No.
easy for a lot of parents, but I think that if people don't tap into that
Yeah.
potential, that the kids will never see that.
Yeah.
And they'll never model that.
Could be a single mom working 3 jobs and saying, you know what, I'm gonna put food on the table. You know, and that might be a legacy that, wow, mom really made it happen. You know, she loved us and she crushed it.
I love that. I love that. So, Kary, as we wind down here, let's do a rapid fire round.
Okay.
Okay. 3 questions.
Okay.
Okay. Whatever comes to your head
All right.
first. Okay. And so, number 1, the one book that has impacted your life the most.
First thing comes Bible.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. And that fits right into
It does,
everything we
man.
talked about. And I love it. One person that has impacted you the most.
Gentleman named Carl Munsmeyer, when I was 18 and wanted to throw in the towel and end my life, I got a letter from a stranger, and he said, I heard your story from your mom, and you need a letter of encouragement, and God told me to say that I believe in you, and here's $500.
Wow.
Stranger. Didn't even know the guy. And I cared more about the $500 when I was 18, but I just, to say somebody believed in me was huge. It was huge.
And he just gave you the $500
And
to say that
a
I
letter.
believe in
He
you.
said, I believe in you. God's going to use your life, and God needs you on his team. I was like, wow, this guy doesn't even know me, but I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna believe in that.
You gotta take
And he became the best man at my wedding.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he was in his 60s.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. Oh, I love that story. I hope he listens to this.
Yes.
When it comes in.
Yes.
Last question.
Yep.
Is the people listening to this tomorrow morning?
Yeah.
What is one habit, if they could change? I know we talked about many different things, but one thing, if they could change tomorrow morning, that could put them on the right path, as we're discussing here, to maybe get that fire, or get on that road to get that fire, what would that be? One habit.
What came into my mind was speak kindly to yourself. Most of us, if we talked the way we do to ourselves, to a friend, they would have left us a long time ago. So I feel like give yourself some kindness, because you need it too.
I love it. I love it. The greatest grace is the grace you give yourself.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I like that.
Right? And I think that's important for all of us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we can be hard on ourselves.
We are hard on ourselves because and it's part of trying to be perfect.
Right.
Right. And right.
Last time I checked, no human was, right? Yeah.
And I loved what you said about delegation and breaking out of that role of being perfect all the time. And then I have to remind myself all the time. Because I am constantly making wrong decisions. But if you don't make the wrong decisions, you'll never make the right decisions.
That's true.
Right? Because the more decisions you make, a good number of them will be wrong.
That's true.
In the process.
Absolutely.
So, Kary, I am a big fan of your work. And I'm just getting to know you
Yeah.
over
Thanks to Nick Hutchinson.
through
Yeah.
Nick, and I'm very thankful to Nick for
Me too.
introducing us. But it's been such a pleasure getting to
Awesome.
know you,
I'm impressed with
and
all you're doing.
um, apart from everything you're doing in the IP
Yeah.
world, which I think is so important, but I think that you yourself are such a remarkable
Mm.
person, and in that journey from all those challenges as a
Sure.
child to
Yeah.
come out of that, and then that transition out of being a pastor to being an entrepreneur
Yeah.
now, I think it's so impressive.
Thank
you
you.
know and so first I want to thank you for being a soul on fire,
Thank you.
and because it's impacting us.
Awesome.
Okay, and we're inspired
Mm.
by who you are and your work and what you stand for. What is your parting message, Kary, to people listening to this?
Wow. I would just say that you were created with purpose, and you were created one of one, and don't waste time. My first company, I named it Redeem the Day, not Seize the Day. Seize the Day is just take hold of it. Redeem is buy back the day. And you can buy back the day by investing in eternal things, which are people.
Mm, I love it. I love it. I think people listening to this are going to get so much value out of this.
Good.
And I absolutely enjoyed your journey, Kary.
Thank you. You're a good host.
And I think people are going to not only gain information, but maybe some level of transformation
That would be
through the
awesome.
process. So, but blessing to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.